While sleeping, Zhou Mingrui was woken up, but he wasn't in his own body but weirdly got into another person's body. Then Zhou Mingrui was suddenly tormented by a terrible headache. Not only that, but he also saw a very vague dream with extremely strange sounds as if appearing from somewhere far away. Then the headache continued to haunt Zhou Mingrui, making it unbearable for him. It felt as if someone was using a knife to gouge his brain. However, while Zhou Mingrui thought he was having a brain hemorrhage and was at risk of death, suddenly the intense pain suddenly subsided. While his mind was gradually stabilizing even though Zhou Mingrui was still in dull pain, he quickly considered asking the manager for sick leave. And of course, there is no employee who does not love their leisure days, even if this means they are having health problems. However, Zhou Mingrui did not let that beautiful fantasy make him succumb to illness, but he tried to use all his strength to open his eyes. However, after Zhou Mingrui opened his eyes, he suddenly discovered that his vision was covered by a layer of red gas. Then Zhou Mingrui was quickly stunned by what he had just seen. Because Zhou Mingrui had seen extremely strange objects that were completely different from the usual objects in his room. First was a study table, and on top of the table was a notebook that had been opened, allowing Zhou Mingrui to clearly see the yellowed, rough pages. But the strange thing lies not in these details but in the strange words written in some strange ink written in the notebook. Then there are the stacks of books on the bookshelf next to the wall, and then a very sophisticated classic Western-style lamp. And of course Zhou Mingrui couldn't help but notice the ink pen with the nib flashing a faint light. Next to it was a revolver. Not only that, Zhou Mingrui also discovered that all the objects on this desk were covered in bright red light. When Zhou Mingrui looked in the direction of this red light, he saw a large round moon emitting an extremely strange red light from the window frame. Because she was so startled, Zhou Mingrui immediately fell out of bed. And when his feet touched the ground, Zhou Mingrui stabilized his body and looked around the room. Then after the observation just now, Zhou Mingrui was startled to realize that the room he was in was not his previous room. The room Zhou Mingrui is standing in has a fairly modest area with 2 doors installed on the left and right sides. Everywhere in the room contains tools that are both strange and yet very familiar. Zhou Mingrui even discovered a lot of coal in a corner of the wall, along with very common kitchen utensils. Then Zhou Mingrui accidentally looked towards a mirror and discovered that his appearance had changed with black hair, brown eyes, a very normal face but with an intellectual look and a skinny body. The whole body is wearing a set of underwear made of jute fabric. At that moment, Zhou Mingrui suddenly had a crazy speculation that he had been ice guy into another world like the novels of the online literature genre that he had been passionate about. While Zhou Mingrui was still confused about his current situation, luckily his mind gradually became clearer than when the terrible headache struck. And maybe Zhou Mingrui's body and spirit were gradually harmonizing with each other, but clouds of memories suddenly appeared in Zhou Mingrui's mind. Flashback information gradually appears as clear as day. The body that Zhou Mingrui is possessing is originally named the Klein Moretti, a student majoring in history from Koei University who has just graduated. Klein Moretti's father was a sergeant but died, but thanks to that, Klein Moretti's family received a generous pension. That's why Klein Moretti is qualified to attend a private school, thanks to which he has a good knowledge base to pursue university studies. As for Klein Moretti's mother, she was a follower of the goddess of the night. She died when Klein had just passed the entrance exam to Koei University. However, Klein Moretti was not an only child but also had a brother and a sister, living in the second apartment, the bedroom of this boarding house. Klein Moretti's family is not rich, it can even be said that they are lacking in everything. Currently, all of their expenses are paid for by their older brother who is currently working as a secretary for an import-export company. Originally, he was a good student. A history major, Klein Moretti is fluent in the Fasak language of the northern continent countries, along with the Hermes language related to worship and prayer, which often appear in ancient tombs. After recalling the chain of information related to Klein Moretti's body in which Zhou Mingrui's soul resided, he suddenly realized that the language Hermes had just seen seemed very familiar. Then Zhou Mingrui quickly realized that the strange text written on the page of the notebook was also the Hermes language. Of course Zhou Mingrui quickly went to the notebook to reveal the mysterious message recorded. Zhou Mingrui was immediately frightened when he understood that the message from the Hermes language meant that everyone would die, including himself. After extreme panic, Zhou Mingrui tried to avoid the notebook and began to focus on thinking about the unusual things that were happening. Then the pistol on the table attracted Zhou Mingrui's attention, and he quickly thought of an illogical point. That is, if according to the previous flashback, Klein Moretti's family background was not very well off, but how could Klein Moretti buy such an expensive weapon? Then Klein Moretti suddenly saw a trace of something bright red lying in a corner of the desk. After getting closer so as not to obstruct his view, Zhou Mingrui was horrified to discover that it was the mark of a bloody hand. The red color of blood is even more dense than the bright red color of moonlight or the layer of red gas that is like a thin silk sheet that covers objects on the desk such as a pistol, pen, inkwell. Trying to suppress the growing panic in her heart, Zhou Mingrui thought about the possibility that this body named Klein Moretti might have been seriously injured somewhere. And a splitting pain immediately appeared as if to confirm Zhou's guess. Thinking that the body he was inhabiting was likely to have its head torn off, Zhou quickly approached the mirror to take a closer look instead of the fleeting glance before. After that, Zhou immediately tilted his head to the side to check the injured area and discovered that right at the temple there was a fierce wound covering the temple. On the edge of the temple were traces of burns. Were countless sticky bloodstains. Not only that, from the gaping wound, Zhou also saw part of the light gray brain working. And from the traces left behind, Zhou realized that this was a wound caused by a gun. Upon witnessing this horrifying scene with his own eyes, Zhou immediately became shocked as if the person he was seeing through the mirror was a zombie. Because normal people certainly cannot live with such a fatal wound. Then Zhou tried to calm himself by reaching out to probe the body's temperature and then the heartbeat, and luckily everything proved that this body was still alive. Although still panicked by this strange situation, Zhou still tried to check the wound again, because it was night time so the light from the blood-red moon was not visible enough to help Zhou see things clearly. However, at this moment, a fragment of memory suddenly appeared in Zhou's head and it helped him know what he needed to do in the situation of lack of light. So Zhou immediately used the ancient lamp mounted on the wall to provide enough light for him. In addition to being able to light up the dark night, the lamp also has the effect of heating the room because it is connected to a gas pipe that can help radiate heat. This convenient lamp is called a gas lamp and it is obviously extremely luxurious for the living situation of Klein Moretti's family. However, Klein Moretti's older brother Benson has done everything to be able to provide the best materials for Klein Moretti's younger brother's college education. Because he was worried about Klein Moretti's future, Benson cleverly persuaded the owner of the boarding house to pay to install a gas pipeline system. Of course, for people who love money like the innkeeper, Benson knows how to draw a future where the innkeeper will earn more money from upgrading the inn's services and thereby attract many guests. Then Benson took advantage of his position as company secretary to buy a new gas lamp at cost price. After finishing the flashback, Zhou quickly went to the gas lamp and turned on the switch, but the lamp still did not work. No matter how Zhou tries to change things, things are still gloomy as before. However, a fragment of memory appeared again to help Zhou, so he knew that in order to use the gas lamp, he needed money. Because this gas lamp is linked to a charging machine installed on the wall near the door. And that is also where the gear-shaped device that Zhou saw while touring the room was located. Then Zhou immediately searched his pocket and pulled out a coin. This coin is yellow and flashes with metallic copper color. The front is engraved with the head of a man wearing a crown, and the back has barley surrounding a character that resembles the number 1. Zhou knew this was the basic currency of the Lone Kingdom, called the penny. 1 penny is equivalent to 3 or 4 yuan in China. There are 3 types of penny coins: 5 penny coins, half penny coins, and quarter penny coins, but they are still not accurate enough to estimate their true value. However, that is not as important right now as Zhou trying to put the coin into the gas meter. After a few rattling noises, the gas lamp finally emitted a wonderful light capable of brightening up the entire dark room. Then, thanks to these favorable conditions, Zhou was able to observe the wound on his temple. Luckily, Zhou also discovered that the wound had stopped bleeding, and the scary burn was also showing signs of drying up. Zhou even saw that the partially exposed brain was operating more stable than before. This means that this fatal wound will quickly recover within 30 minutes or within 3 hours at the latest. Before this miraculous incident, Zhou silently felt lucky because of the wonderful privileges of being Ice Guy. Zhou then quickly went to a cupboard to get soap and towels in preparation for bathing to remove all traces of the wound. One thing that is very convenient for Zhou is that the public bathroom is installed on the 2nd floor of the boarding house so Zhou can easily go there. Of course, Zhou must quickly carry out the plan to destroy this evidence to avoid tomorrow morning when her younger sister Melissa wakes up and will be scared and try to ask the cause of the incident. Then Zhou tried to overcome his fear as he walked in the dark hallway relying on the pale light from the blood-red moon to reach the bathroom. When he arrived, Zhou fumbled around for a while and then found the knob of the faucet. The sound of running water also quickly appeared and made quite a loud noise in the quiet night. However, at this moment, a fragment of Klein Moretti's memory about the landlord Frankie being a very stingy person and often finding excuses to cause trouble to catch up with tenants appeared in Zhou's mind. According to Zhou, Frankie always lurks in the bathroom area to avoid tenants from using too much water. Because the water bill is included in the rent, Frankie basically cannot profit anymore if the tenant uses it too much. And of course, with his stingy nature, Frankie was not embarrassed at all and used countless cruel words and even curses to get the tenant who was using the bathroom to stop. Thinking for a moment, Joe decided not to use the faucet anymore but instead used a towel dipped in water to clean the wound. After carefully examining the wound, which had been carefully cleaned using the old mirror installed in the bathroom, Joe continued to wash the jute clothes with soap. Because Joe also discovered that the clothes were dirty with bloodstains. After taking a shower and properly dealing with the traces that were clinging to his body, Joe put on his clothes and quickly returned to his room. Because Joe had thought that it was very likely that there were still many bloodstains left in the room, of course he had to erase all traces. Then Joe rubbed off the hand-shaped bloodstain on one corner of the desk, then based on the light from the gas lamp, Joe saw a lot of blood splattered on the floor and even more blood. Bloodstains were also splashed under the desk. Along with this, Joe also discovered a bronze-colored warhead pinned to the wall, also near the desk. From the data found, Joe immediately speculated that Klein Moretti had used a gun to shoot himself in the temple. And to prove this speculation, Joe quickly disassembled the pistol and poured out all the bullets inside the revolver. Joe counted a total of 5 bullets and a bullet casing with a bronze color similar to the one he had just seen on the wall. After observing the scene as well as verifying the remaining evidence, Joe kept thinking about whether the Klein Moretti's death was a suicide or whether someone was deliberately plotting it. Made this death look like a suicide. Because Joe believed that a history major like Klein Moretti could not possibly encounter something so complicated that he would lose his life. However, the real cause remains a mystery, because this world is not the previous world Joe inhabited. Suddenly in that moment, Joe suddenly remembered the peaceful life with his family and relatives as well as the countless pastimes and delicious foods always present around him. Then Joe suddenly thought about why he was brought to this strange world by Ice Guy. Maybe he had caused some earth-shattering incident before. And immediately Joe suddenly remembered that before being hit by Ice Guy and entering Klein Moretti's body, Joe had performed a ritual to change destiny. To mention the root cause of this, it is necessary to understand a little information about Joe. Because in the old world, Joe, besides his daily job as a normal salaried employee, Joe also took on countless additional roles. Who is an online politician, online historian, online economist, online biologist as well as online ethnographer. And of course Joe himself also considers himself a person who, although he has not yet reached the level of mastery, basically knows everything. However, friends often laugh at Joe for being someone who only knows a little about everything. However, Klein Moretti still possesses a strange knowledge that is different from most people, and one of them is the Taoist magic, which originated from Taoism. To clarify the reason why Joe knew about this magical method, it must be mentioned that last year when he was on his way home, he stopped by a used bookstore to relieve stress. And here Joe discovered a vertical-sized book bound with thread called Summary of Esoteric Divine Methods of the Qin Han Dynasty. Seeing that the book seemed interesting and could increase Joe's level when he gossiped online, Joe immediately bought it. However, Joe quickly got bored of studying this old book, so he threw it in a corner of the house. Then, a few months later, Joe suddenly had continuous bad luck, losing her phone, customers running away, or doing the wrong thing and being scolded by her boss. Bad things keep happening, causing Joe to suddenly remember the opening part of Summary of Esoteric Divine Methods of the Qin Han Dynasty with a ritual to change destiny. This seems impossible to do, but the instructions are very simple, no special basics required. Because people who want to change their destiny just need to divide the special dishes of the area they live in into 4 parts and place them in the 4 corners of the room or put them on the table or in a drawer. Then stand in the center of the room, walking 4 steps counterclockwise to create a square. For each step, the person practicing the ritual needs to recite each name of the great immortals in Taoism in order from largest to smallest. After completing the step, close your eyes and wait 5 minutes and the ritual is considered successful. With the idea that if the ritual is successful, it is good, if it is not then there is no harm, so Joe immediately performed the ritual to change destiny. However, after Joe finished, nothing happened, so he thought he had failed. However, when he woke up in the middle of the night, Joe discovered that he had been hit by Ice Guy. This means that the book did not lie, and Joe thought that he could perform that magical ritual again to return to the old world. After drawing up a plan with a high chance of success, Joe immediately found peace in his soul after experiencing countless panic when suddenly being possessed by Ice Guy and then entering his body. Of a person showing signs of suicide. Joe then carefully recalled fragments of Klein's memories to search for more information about his strange passing. However, no matter how hard Joe tries, the memory still cannot be complete and is always missing. Therefore, Joe could not know the cause of Klein's death or why Klein owned a pistol. At the same time, Joe also wondered why Klein wrote the line, "Everyone will die, even Klein himself." All clues were interrupted. Joe guessed that this was caused by the fatal wound to the temple. Thinking that if Klein hadn't died, it would still be difficult for him to continue his studies at university, despite the fact that Joe knew that Klein had just graduated from Koei University. However, from the small memories, Joe learned that Klein was about to participate in an interview to become a history lecturer at Taigen University. Because if Klein did not participate, even if he graduated with an excellent degree, he would not be retained by the university, because this is part of the regulations of the Lone Kingdom. While thinking about events related to Klein, Joe turned off the switch of the gas lamp, because he had a habit of lying in the dark so that his mind could operate at full capacity. Of course, Joe's eyelids were still wide open so he could observe the scenery outside the window as if it were an elegant hobby. And Joe witnessed the sight of the blood-red moon gradually being replaced by the brilliant rays of the morning sun. However, Melissa seems not to be suitable for the Sunday school program because she has her own plan that is different from any other girls her age. This comes from Melissa's interest in learning and making mechanical items. Then last July, when Melissa was 15 years old, she passed the entrance exam and became a member of the STEAM and Mechanical Department of Tingen Technical School. However, along with the joy came the worry when the weekly tuition also increased to 9 cents. Because during that period of time the import-export company where Benson worked was affected by the current situation in the southern continent, so whether it was profits or the amount of work, they had seriously decreased and had to cut payroll by 1/3. To avoid the risk of losing his job and to maintain his livelihood, Benson had to take on heavier jobs, often working overtime or going on business trips to places with poor conditions. This also explains why Benson was not at home during the time Klein ate a copper candy. As for Klein, of course he was extremely upset when he saw his older brother having to work hard to earn money to support his two younger siblings' education, and Klein really wanted to work to supplement his family's income, but he couldn't do it. Because Klein came from a commoner background, he basically did not have any outstanding talents. Even Klein's ability to understand the ancient Fusark language was inferior compared to students from upper-class backgrounds. Because for them, contact with the Fusark language is something they have been taught since childhood. That's why no matter how hard Klein tries, he can't catch up to the position of those students with noble backgrounds. So, in the end, Klein could only graduate with an average degree in history from Koei University. While Joe was immersed in memories of the three Klein brothers, the sound of Melissa's room door opening made Joe somewhat awake. Then Joe looked down at his hands holding the pistol and began to feel worried if Melissa discovered him. Because in this world, guns are still prohibited weapons for public sale. In a hurry, Joe immediately opened the drawer of the desk and threw the gun inside. But because he acted too violently, Joe accidentally made a very loud noise. At this moment Melissa entered the room and immediately asked her brother Klein what had just happened. Seeing Melissa, Joe immediately acted instinctively and touched the wound on his temple. However, according to the sense of touch transmitted by his fingers, Joe realized that the wound had closed. This makes Joe feel very lucky. Then Joe was able to feel more secure and looked towards Melissa, and he also discovered that although Melissa was a bit skinny because her family did not have the conditions to support her, she still exuded beauty and dignity, full of youthful vitality. However, at that time, Melissa, with her curious young nature, did not forget to look intently at Joe as if waiting for him to answer her question. However, instead of answering Melissa, Joe used a tactic of deception by taking out a white pocket watch with an intricately engraved pattern. This was originally a souvenir left to the three Klein brothers from their father, who held the title of Sergeant of the Royal Army. Previously, Benson often used this pocket watch when going out to interact with customers as well as with his boss, as a way to upgrade his status in the eyes of others. But with time, the souvenir watches also encountered many problems. So, Benson stopped using it for fear of losing face. Knowing this, Joe told Melissa about the problem with the watch, and Melissa, with her talent for mechanical engineering, helped Joe quickly adjust the operation of the watch normally. Often. However, when Melissa helps Joe, her face always looks expressionless. After finishing work, Melissa went to a drawer to get her personal hygiene items and then quietly went to the bathroom on the second floor. As Melissa's silhouette passed by, Joe suddenly had a hunch that she knew her brother was hiding some secret, and at the same time, she also expressed an attitude as if she did not want to face her brother. Stupid people are doing strange actions. Then Joe suddenly thought that when using a gun, the sound would be very loud, and in the quiet night and in the room next door like that, maybe Melissa wouldn't notice anything unusual. However, it is also possible that Klein's death did not occur in a normal manner, so Melissa could not detect anything strange. While Joe was reeling in his speculations, Melissa had returned after brushing her teeth and washing her face. Seeing Joe's unconscious appearance as he kept messing with the souvenir watch, Melissa couldn't hide her feelings for her brother. Melissa began to use her sweet voice to urge Joe to quickly prepare bread for the upcoming breakfast. And she will be in charge of cooking stewed goat meat served with bread. Of course, Joe quickly did as Melissa said because he was very hungry. Although the food was not excellent, it was enough to satisfy Joe's empty stomach. After finishing eating, Melissa reminded Joe to remember to buy another 8 pounds of bread and some necessary ingredients because the house was out of food. When hearing about the strange pound unit of the Lone Kingdom, Joe immediately converted it to a common unit of the Old World. And 1 pound is equal to half a kilogram. Of course, Joe immediately agreed. After carefully instructing her brother, Melissa quickly prepared her lunch and then took her books and school supplies to prepare for school. Because today is not Sunday, someone who does not attend Sunday school must go to school all day. That's why Melissa always wakes up very early every weekday to prepare breakfast for the whole family and then prepare for school. Melissa chose to walk because Tingen Technical School was not too far from this boarding house, only taking about 10 minutes to travel. While Melissa was putting on her hat to leave the house, Joe thought about the timeline of this new world and discovered that it was similar to his old world. Because in the northern continent, a year is also divided into 12 months, each year has 365 days, or 366 days. A week is also divided into 7 days. The division of time in this place is based on religion. Because the northern continent has 7 legitimate gods, the eternal sun, the lord of storms, the god of knowledge and wisdom, the god of night, the mother goddess of earth, the god of war and the god of steam and machinery. On Earth, the division of time is the result of astronomy, so Joe suspects that this place could be a parallel world to Earth. After Melissa went out the door, Joe immediately silently apologized to her in his mind. Because the next thing Joe wants to do is perform a ritual to change destiny to return to Earth.